Hello, I'm Nathan Parker and welcome to the Don't Give A Ruck Podcast. Here is episode 1, which was filmed at the start of the year, just before the mess of the lockdown and COVID-19, and it was with former Exeter Chiefs and Dragons centre Adam Hughes. Now, this is the first of our concussion specials, and we have started the interview by talking about Adam's current health and well-being. Enjoy. Right, firstly, Adam, probably the best place to start is with your current well-being. How's the head? How's your life at the moment?
Yeah, really good. As a transition from professional sport to sort of civilian life, as you put it, it's gone. And yeah, it's gone really smoothly. And I just look back and thank the planning that I put in while I played rugby to the position I'm in now. And yeah, enjoying it. It is a big learning curve, but I felt like I've dealt with it quite well.
And you still flying?
Yeah, still flying. Yeah, getting around. It's one of those things, like even with rugby and like normal work now, it takes your mind off things. And it's something different, and it's something that people enjoy. Going up with you. So good fun.
And you played for the likes of Bristol, Exeter Chiefs, and the Dragons. Looking back, would you say you enjoyed your career? That's probably a silly question, but Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, you do things, and especially when you look back on it, you do things that you could never do in any other career. The places you go, the big stadiums you play in, the big crowds, the people you meet, and the experiences you have, you can't replicate anywhere else. So you never could look back and regret the rugby career. It was what it was, and it was a really good time. But now it's time to do something else.
And you scored 22 tries for the Dragons in 119 games. Was a Welsh call-up ever on the card?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I felt I was really close at times. Unfortunately, I came on the scene exactly the same time as George North, and there was only ever one winner there, unfortunately. But no, there was a couple of times where I got really close and had a few calls, but unfortunately never actually made that step to getting that cap. So one of those things you can look back and say, what could I have done differently? But no regrets.
Was there any contact with Warren Gatland at all?
Yeah, there was a couple of times on Rob Howley, but the case never actually crossed that white line and got that cap. But it was nice to know I was on their thoughts, especially as his injuries came at the wrong time. That was one of the biggest things with me. That's when the head knocks started really taking their toll.
Before the head knocks, obviously we talked about you playing up at Exeter Chiefs. I bet you loved your time up there.
Yeah, that's an amazing club. You can see where they come from and the journey they're on to now probably being one of the best clubs in Europe. Extremely well run, probably Rob Baxter, one of the best coaches probably in the world right now. I can see him going on and coaching England in the future. And I learned so much, and I felt actually weirdly, even though I didn't play that much rugby down there because of my head injuries, I played some of the best rugby I've ever played there because of the coaching, the players around you and the structure of how they play. Really brought out the best probably in my game.
Was the standard different at all to the Pro 12 or Pro 14 as it was?
I wouldn't say it's so much the standard, it's the standard of the games week by week. The top games in the Pro 14 and the top games in the Premiership are the same, but it's the fact that in the Premiership it's got to be like that every week, whereas in the Pro 14 sometimes you go to Italy and it'd be sort of lower games, sort of lower standard games, or when say the Irish have got a cup game the week after, they probably bring their second team over. So that's the difference between the Pro 14 and the Premiership. And
we'll go on to the concussion now. You actually had a head knock in a pre-season game, I believe. Could you talk to us?
Yeah, so that was going into pre-season. I think it was our last one against the Cardiff Blues at home, Rodney Parade. It was all going really well, felt in really good shape, had a good pre-season. Unfortunately, Josh Navidi's running down the wing. I just go in and make a tackle on him, and as I go to hit him low, his knee comes up and just knocks me clean out, unfortunately. And I don't remember anything about it. I only know because I've seen the video of it. But apart from that, I wouldn't remember anything about the day.
What was the thoughts during that period? Because I think you were up 5 months.
Yeah, that was one of my really big. I had quite a few up until then. But by the point that one came along, we understood concussion a bit more. We understood that I needed a long layoff after, because it had been repeated concussions. So.
And you could have retired there and then. What made you think I can get through this?
It was just speaking to specialists really, and no one really fully understands concussion enough to say to you should stop, because they don't know what the after effects are going to be. So it was a case of speaking to the specialists, speaking to the coaches and the physios at the club, coming up with a plan and just seeing how the plan went. And because it was moving along quite nicely along those few months we had, it just felt like I could give it at least one more go. But I did have in the back of my head that I wouldn't be able to do this again if it was to happen again.
Obviously, having that at the back of your head would have affected your game probably.
Oh, without doubt, I would say that my game and my ability to play to the level I was beforehand definitely dropped off, because you're thinking a lot more about the hits you make and the tackles you're going into, and even though you might think you're not, it in the back of your mind is always there.
And you once described the injury is an invisible injury, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Do you ever think back at that time and think, I should have retired there and then?
No, not at all, because we only reacted on what we understood what concussion was. So when I started playing for the Dragons, probably 2010, concussion was one of those things where if you just knew where you were and what the score was, you can continue playing.
Yeah.
But towards the end of my career, concussion obviously became a big issue. So there's a lot more research done into it, a lot more was understood about it. So that's when we started taking the more precautions, taking the longer layoffs, etc. So we just reacted to it the best we could and the best of our knowledge. So at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's how we reacted to it.
And during that period in time, how did it affect things off the pitch for you?
Yeah, it was quite tough, because especially when it comes to the sort of after effects, side effects of concussion, or like your ability to concentrate, your memory loss, etc. It did affect quite a few things off field, especially when it comes to studying. And you obviously become a bit more sort of hard to live with, as it were. So those things affected, but we got through that all fine.
And when you had the big concussion that eventually ended up in your retirement, you went up to Birmingham, I believe. Yeah. What was your thought process going up there? And was you thinking, oh, this is it? Or was it just another case of see another specialist, just get it checked out and continue on my career?
Well, this was almost another step, another level now, because I was told that this is like the best guy in the country, which is why we went so far to go and see him, and that he would know for sure. But like any neurosurgeon anywhere, they don't fully know, because we don't fully understand concussion enough at the moment. It was a case of he could tell me what was wrong, like he could see little scars in my brain, he could see how I was reacting to these tests, but he had no idea to say that if I was to carry on, would this happen, or I could carry on and be absolutely fine. He didn't know, but I had to take it on my own basis, where I felt that every concussion was getting worse, even just making, I suppose, normal tackles, I was feeling it. So I had to make the decision by myself, but just backed it by his evidence.
You should have flamed the tackle.
Yeah, that's the problem. So I was, as a guy who was always a bit smaller than everyone, I had to sort of go in head first and really chop. And I actually loved it. That's my favourite part of the game. So when I felt that I couldn't do that, I felt like I lost a big chunk of of my game, what I was good at. So that's something, again, made another. If I can't play at the highest level that I played at before I wanted to play at, what is the point in carrying on?
Another probably silly question: how hard was it, or was it easy decision to retire? Because even though you're leaving all that in the past, all your rugby career and everything you've worked for, was there an easy decision in terms of your long-term health? Yeah,
it was pretty easy. Once I spoke to the specialist, and once he spotted the scars on the brain, so you know that there was actual damage done in the past, made the decision pretty easy then. And the fact that I knew I had something to go straight into post-rugby was a bit of a blessing as well, so it made that decision so much easier, because my worry is, and it's what I speak to a lot of the guys about, is people who don't have anything to go into post-rugby just end up prolonging their careers for the sake of it. They would go that extra 2 or 3 knocks because they'd have nothing to fall back on. So for me, that made it a bit easier as well.
And we talked about you flying earlier. Was your dream to become a commercial pilot?
Yeah, that would have been the ideal plan. But unfortunately, that was put to bed for the same reasons as why I couldn't play rugby.
Yeah.
But luckily, I got given a sort of heads up about that about 2 years before I actually retired, that the amount of concussions I had might be an issue. So that's when I went and started studying to be a financial advisor and got my exams done.
What was your feelings when you knew that wasn't a possibility?
Pretty gutted, because I've been wanting to do that for years. And obviously, I got my private license when I was about 20.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's no point dwelling on it. Just go on and move on.
And on the concussion as a whole in modern day rugby, do you think there's been enough done to combat it in terms of the laws and maybe the HIA?
You can see what they do. At least what they're doing is being proactive. At the end of the day, like I said, they don't fully understand how it all works, but we're moving on very quickly, probably more than a lot of sports. When it comes to this new laws of tackling below the waist, or is it below the chest, isn't it? For me, that's not really going to be any use. I'd say most of, if not all of my knockouts were from tackling knees and hips. They're the hardest part of the body.
Yeah.
But you can see that at least they're trying things. They're not just sitting back and just letting everyone carry on. They're trying to be proactive, trying to find ways around it. So you can't fault them that way. But more is going to need to be done year on year, the more we understand it.
And was the HIA 10 minutes off the field around when you were playing?
No.
It wasn't around. What do you think about that? Because I've seen a lot of specialists say that it's doing players more harm. You can't really see a concussion within 10 minutes, and putting them back on the field, it can damage their lives. Right?
Well, the way I see it is, if you need to go off for HIA, then you don't need to come back on again. Because if you're going off for HIA, you know something's happened, you know something's wrong, so why are you then coming back on? So for me, if you notice you need to go off for any reason, you should stay off. If you go off, if you feel like you've been knocked out and you go off and you can do a few tests, okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, congratulations for doing the test, but it doesn't mean that you're fully fit to come back on. But again, it's all about gaining knowledge from those HIAs and seeing if they can adapt it moving forward.
And alongside your business, you took up the whistle.
Yeah.
What was the thought process behind that?
Trying to not get fat was the main one. To try and keep fit, and also just to try and sort of keep that buzz really, because that's the one thing you miss is being around the rugby environment, the people, and also the games as well. So just trying to recreate that buzz, and so you don't lose that, and then keep a part of what you left behind. And
we just had the Rugby World Cup. I think there was more red cards in the first 15 games than there was in the last 6 tournaments. What were your thoughts on the performances and how referees are dealing with it? Because you must have it on a common basis where you see someone going in for a tackle and you think...
Well, the problem is everyone that watches the rugby, then it sort of dribbles down to the lower league. So if a referee does something in a Six Nations game, then the teams I referee the following week will expect me to do the same. Yeah. Even though the top referee might have got something wrong, or might have had it right, I might get something wrong, but it always overlaps. But you do see some of the hits, especially even at the lower levels, they absolutely smash each other. Yeah. And then it's up to the referee then to take control of that situation. Because if I see anyone with even an inkling of a head knock, they will be off straight away. Yeah. Even though they might not agree with it.
And you talked about the high tackles, and most of your head knocks were from low tackles. Is that implemented on you as a referee from the WRU of keeping the tackles low and you have to tell the players before the game? Or
no, the players know the law. They don't need me to tell them every single Saturday what the laws are. They know that you can't hit people around the head. They know you can't pick them up and put them on their head. So they're just clear foul play. If I see anybody who maybe is just drifting a bit too high, I'll have a word with them, and more often than not, they'll not do it again. Yeah. But they do fully understand these days that the laws of the game are there to protect them and not just to annoy them. I'm not doing it because I enjoy penalising them. It's to protect them. So they are coming around to it now.
And do you still watch rugby? Do you still enjoy it?
I probably watch it more now than I ever did. So when I played, I didn't really watch it much because you got sick of watching it every single day. So I probably watch it a bit more now, actually. I don't tend to go to many games, but I watch it on TV really.
So when you're watching it, do you sometimes wince? And because someone who's had a career in rugby and it's left a scar on you in some ways, some people might sort of want to get away from it, but you still enjoy it. Yeah. And do you still sometimes wince when?
Oh yeah, some of the hits you see at the moment are just crazy, and they're legal hits. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just every year, every player is going to get bigger, faster, and stronger because they always want to be better than the previous year. So,
do you think there's anything that should be done, or is there anything that can be done?
How you curtail that, you can't, can you? Because at the end of the day, it's a performance business, so everybody wants to perform better next year than the year before. So you can't really curtail that, because whenever players are fighting for contracts, they want to be bigger, faster, stronger than the person they're fighting for. So there's no way of curtailing it. You just got to curtail it in the way the game's played.
And what does the future hold for you finally?
For me, I think I'd like to continue on the road I'm on, really. I'd like to keep pushing with my refereeing to see how high I can go with that, because I'm really enjoying that, and also with work as well. Really enjoying it, and just keep going, really.
Keep flying.
Yeah, keep flying.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's all right. No problem.